Welcome to the curios.IT tutorial. To import a file into curios.IT, you just select it in the file selector box on the left. It has to be in comma-separated value format. Curios.IT will detect automatically the format of the file, and if there are any problems, it will notify you. I just select the demo now to import a demo dataset of 229 countries. You immediately see a first visualization. What you notice probably first is this eye on the upper left side. This is the main navigation. It allows you to switch data viewers. You have 17 different data viewers. Not all of them might be available depending on the structure of your data. On each viewer you have on the top and on the bottom you have navigation. These are used to control the currently selected viewer. On the left side you have a generic navigation which I will explain later. This is always available for each viewer. Here you see different data groups visualized as trees. Each tree represents one group or a subset of the data. You can select the nature of the groups on the top. For instance, you can select them to be clusters. You can select categories. Then you have to select a categorical variable to say which category you want to group by. You can also group by numerical variables. For instance, you can choose these intervals options, which will choose intervals of the variable selected here, for instance, population growth, which are not equidistant, but contain a similar amount of records each. The other option would be histogram, where you also have to select a numerical variable. This creates equidistant intervals, which contain different numbers of records and might not contain any records, and then they are not shown. On the bottom you have this configure tree button, which you can use to set the mapping of visual features of the tree to data variables. On the right side you can play with visual features. You can explore what they actually do. For instance, the stem skew, either it's that the tree is straight or it's very skewed, and so on. And on the left side you can map. For instance, you can say for the stem height you can choose a numerical variable, for instance the population growth, or in this case life expectancy of man. And you can also choose to invert. Normally it's like this, that small numerical values correspond to a small size in the visualization and large values to a large size, but you can also invert this, and then you have small values corresponding to large visual structures and large values to small visual structures. If you're done, you click on this done button and you are back in the visualization. You can, for each viewer, choose between perspective and orthographic projection. The orthographic projection looks a bit strange, but has the advantage that it preserves distances better, which means that objects which are in the back are not made smaller than those which are in the front. This allows you to compare visual structures more easily. Then on the left side you have this generic navigation. You can use it mainly to select values, but you can also select values from the visualization, for instance by clicking on a tree. Then you get here the subset button. Then you click on the subset button, you are immediately diving into this subset, and it is visualized using the same viewer you had before. You can go back using the selection history here. You can click on all, and then you see the full data set again. You can also select by value. For instance, you can choose all records which have a population growth smaller than 0, negative population growth. You click on select, and then you see this data. And again, you can go back in the selection history. You can select by category. You select a categorical variable, and then, for instance, you select 2 categories and you're done. You can also, if your data set is too large, if data processing takes long, or if there are too many records for some certain viewers, you can reduce the number of records by choosing a random selection. For instance, you can choose 20% of the records, and then you see something quite similar. You can also select typical records. For instance, you could choose the 80% most typical records. You again get something more or less similar. You can select outliers, which are much different than the average. And then you get typical here, these outliers which we saw before, but also some very poor countries here and some extra rich. And I go back to the main visualization.